Hi, Rob Brown here with you on this Wednesday morning, October 2nd, 2024.
Is it Wednesday? Wednesday.
It's Wednesday, isn't it? It's Wednesday, yeah.
Is it Wednesday?
It's Wednesday.
Someday.
Because the roofers showed up at 6:27 a.m. Central this morning. They are putting on a new roof. This is an awesome couple of days. Man, these guys are working.
You send them to my house when you're done. That would be great.
I know. Yeah, boy, finding good roofers. What a great group of people these people are. Hey, got a great show today. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net is going to check in with us. Vince Ferrara, the sports animal up in Knoxville, will join us. Ronnie Sanders, Auburn Undercover. Mildred might make an appearance on the show this morning if she's up, but a lot to talk about. All 16 SEC schools. What are the hot topics? What coaches faced must-win game challenges this weekend, Brendan? We want to get into that. And where do you go from here? Talking heads, you may find yourself asking, how did I get here? If you're a Florida Gator, if you're Auburn, how did you get to be where you are right now? A lot of people worked together to put you where you are, and other people can help get you out. Hey, smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Get pen and paper handy, because class is in session on Sidelines.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown and Brendan, where do you start, man? Big games this weekend in college football. Looking around the SEC, here we are. Missouri at Texas A&M, Brendan. This is the show me state of Missouri, as Doug Dean likes to call it. Brendan, A&M's pretty good. They're 4-1. Missouri is undefeated. Let's get your thoughts real quick. What do you think's going to happen down there? You've seen A&M up close and personal.
I have.
You know all the cheers. You've got the code.
I got it down.
What's going to happen?
I think A&M's going to lose.
You do.
I think Missouri's a better team. It's a better coach team. It's got more experience. I think, Missouri is, the Missouri that we think that they are. Yeah. I think they just play in the SEC.
I think they go on the road and have a breakout game, and I think they win as well. They were my top four teams before the season started were Georgia and Ole Miss, Alabama and Missouri. Okay, and Tennessee. They're at fifth. Now, we're going to be in Fayetteville this weekend. Going to be fun to watch them play Arkansas. That'll be a fun game. Man.
Are you guys going down there? What, you guys going to Fayetteville?
Yeah, we're going up there Thursday about midday. We got to be at a dinner Thursday night in Fayetteville, and we'll do the show up there Friday. And going to be a lot of fun. And, I saw a T-shirt one of my Arkansas friends sent me a picture of yesterday. It was an Arkansas shirt, and it said, "Woo pig, we almost always win," because they had Oklahoma State. They were ahead. They were ahead of Texas A&M, and I think Arkansas fans are relieved to not have to be going to Jerry World for the last. I think they were 1-9 or 1-10 in these last 11 games on the neutral site. And they got a lot of fans, a lot of alumni in Dallas. But next year, you just love those games being on your home campus. Let me flip back to you.
You'll also love it because you get it in your second year. You get your second year coach. You get a little bit more. This is what you want to see. You want those close games, those almost wins to happen in that first year.
Yeah.
I think you saw that at Florida in year two. which a lot of people were like, well, why, was this year late? And then, sort of not really, as we've seen so far, really sort of, I guess, take over, but, or get jump started. But we'll see, which I think is interesting because of the parity in the SEC this year, because of the crazy Vanderbilts, because of the things that a lot of things on bingo cards that a lot of people don't have this year. And I think that, Florida kids still find a way, if you can beat UCF at home, have a nice win, cobble together a couple of things, you could, Billy Napier and company could squeak out a few wins, especially with the Georgia team that doesn't look all that great on defense.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, Rob? What do you think about Florida's chances now? With the parity and what we're seeing going on around college football as a whole, it's chaotic.
It is chaotic, and I picked Florida 19-18 over UCF. Gus Malzahn's teams traditionally have been good after a loss. They come out on fire, but I don't think he has the line of scrimmage players right now that Florida does. It's not just because it's in the swamp. I think it's going to be a line of scrimmage game. I give the edge to Florida. Dudley, appreciate you. My 8 o'clock thought 8:30, and he's got 3 young kids. He's trying to get out the door to school, and I'm like, hey, I totally thank you for your understanding. So Ronnie Sanders will be on with us about 8:30, and I'm hoping Vince can pop in a little bit early as well. Dudley.
Mine are 30, so we're good.
I know.
I
miss those days, man. My youngest is 24. I'm down in Auburn at the Oklahoma game watching the Arkansas-Texas A&M game. And a lot of my friends went out there to the game, and they were like, God, it's frustrating. And I was telling Brendan, we almost always win T-shirt. One of my Arkansas friends, Scott Paulo, sent me a picture of last night. And I think about it, Arkansas is very close. They're not getting blown out. I mean, a few breaks go their way. They're 5-0. But what's the temperature of the Arkansas fan base? They're not all in the northwest corner. They got fans all over the state and all over Texas and Memphis. What are you reading?
Same story, same verse is pretty much what I've been hearing, that the team, while they are better, has finding ways to lose ball games instead of win them. And, I think that's pretty accurate. I do think they're a better football team than their last year. They certainly have more pieces than they did last year. They like each other, and it's got to be frustrating, for them. And I totally understand that. This is a contract money year, whatever you want to call it, for the coaching staff. And we talk about Coach Pittman, but if they make a change, it's probably going to be a totally cleaning out and a lot of people, new people coming in. So it's got to be frustrating. And now, lo and behold, here comes number 4 Tennessee to your house.
Yeah.
Doesn't get any easier here.
No, I mean, it's thank you, sir. May I have another? And that's life in the SEC. And I think Texas is going to find that out this year. The Red River Shootout. Okay, if they beat Oklahoma, they're going to be beating their chest. Well, you go back home to Austin, and guess who you play next Saturday? Georgia. And Georgia is madder than a bunch of wet hens right now after what happened over there at Alabama. They get down 28-0, and they fought back. So I don't think anybody was hanging their heads. I think they're going, wow, man, we're never out of it. Dudley, Talon Green, what's your report card on him? Because you know how to evaluate players. You also are honest in your assessments. You don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Fantastic athlete, still becoming a quarterback. I think we talked about that earlier in the year, that maybe he was a 2-year project. May not be the right word there, but it's the one that comes to mind right now. He is running scared, literally and figuratively. It's a situation where he right now will make you some great plays, but he's gotten so much pressure, and the offensive line is not protecting him. The tight ends haven't done a great job either. They've been injured. Not sure that the top 2 will be there this weekend. You just have a situation where when it's time to stay in the pocket, he's taking off running because he's used to it. And when it's time to take off running, he, is maybe taking off a little too quickly, as Coach Pittman and I think Coach Petrino have found out. But, more than anything, I mean, good grief, it looked like they had the snap count because they were in the backfield before the play started, it seemed like. And that's no way for a quarterback to operate in. They asked Coach Pittman yesterday, or 2 days ago, I guess now, is it fair to, with so much pressure for him to be able to flourish? And he said, well, yes, it is, but you don't expect him to be perfect. But again, turnovers, you don't make the turnovers, then you're 5-0, as you said, and and that's. But you know what? You are what your record says, as the man said.
Well, and that's true. And everybody always says, we were 9-3. We could have been 12-0 if this would have happened. But you know what happens too? Sometimes you win a game, and then the next week you take off. You're not as dialed in, and that's why that might be the truest statement that you'll ever hear. Is your record is what it is, and turnovers, they're part of the game. The other team, their job is to create turnovers. Alabama built a culture under Nick Saban of we're going to be physical and violent at the point of attack and force turnovers. They made a hell of a living off that, and that's great. If you look at Arkansas, your running backs, is it an upgrade from, Rocket Sanders really wasn't there last year, but how good is Quindarian Jackson?
He's done a great job. Jaquindon Jackson is a kid that didn't really get off this last weekend. The Texas A&M has a great defensive line, and they were able to limit him there. And Arkansas had to put the ball in the air. But I tell you what's interesting is you're getting this week. Apparently, Rashad Dominion he was suspended last week. He's coming back. He's going to get the opportunity to play as long as he practices well. And Braylon Russell, who's the young high school kid, the 253-pound tailback, has shown that he has the ability to do some things as well. Rodney Hill from Florida State. Running back is not a problem for them. I think that's a plus position for them. It's the people protecting them. And it looked like they were a little bit better on the offensive line to start the year. And I sung their praises, certainly the first half at Oklahoma State. But we're back to a situation where it's not meshing very well. And again, when you don't have the tight ends to throw to, whether they're not hurt or not getting open or having to stay in the block, it limits the Arkansas offense. I expected Luke Haas to have, 30 catches now. And instead, Andrew Armstrong has 152, it seems like. He's the only one that Taylor Green seems to throw to.
You look at the SEC top to bottom this year. You've seen Oklahoma, you've seen Texas in the league, but what we haven't seen is them go a full season with the grind. Arkansas play in Texas. It seems like Arkansas is better when they have Texas on the schedule because their name is in Texas more, and it helps in recruiting. Agree or disagree?
That was my original thought, and I think it did help them early. Although I think that the coaches have not exactly used it as they should. Yeah. Coach Pittman is trying to do that. And here now it's a situation where it may not matter. We'll see the rest of the way. I think they'll only be favored in 2 games, maybe with Louisiana Tech and Mississippi State. So you're looking, maybe being 5 wins. That's probably not going to do it. But as far as the Texas thing, it is absolutely ridiculous that as I get ready to go to the stadium Saturday, it will be the second time I've done that this season. 2 on-campus games in the first 6. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And that's why the Arlington thing is going away. The Arkansas playing in Little Rock. They play Arkansas State next year. We'll see what happens from that point on, but I think it's trending toward all the games being up here. All that being said is you can find a variety of reasons for there to be a new regime here next year or a variety of reasons for them to flip the switch and, get to where they are at least competitive. But you're fighting uphill, man, right now because you should have won these 2 ball games.
It's frustrating. And then you think about Little Rock pulling at you to play there in Fort Worth. You know, we got a lot of alumni here. I can remember that the last time when Auburn expanded their stadium in 1980 to 75,000, used to play 2 or 3 games a year in Birmingham. And that was great. Alabama played all their big games in Birmingham. And then when Auburn expanded their stadium and then they moved the game there December 2nd of 89, Alabama fought it. I know someone who was at the meeting with the Alabama people when they said, y'all are going to play us here, and if you don't, it'll be a shame that you have to forfeit. And Alabama begrudgingly came, but it was the best thing to ever happen to them because you look at Bryant-Denny Stadium now. If I'm Arkansas,
let me be clear about one thing, though. The Arkansas football program is in the SEC. It has this big stadium up here because of the donors and support they got from the Central Arkansas people and playing down there when that stadium was better than this one up here. So they're the biggest reason that this program is where it's at now. But as you say, it's you have you have a school called Little Rock down there. You have one, the University of Arkansas up here. You just got to play home games to be able to be successful.
Yeah, and again, you know it growing up in the Delta over in Newport Balch, the Metroplex, but in Memphis, Tennessee used to play games in Memphis. There's a lot of 15, 20,000 season ticket holders for Tennessee right there in the Memphis area in West Tennessee. So everybody loves the University of Arkansas in this state. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go, what the record is, people are wearing Razorback stuff.
Hey, Arkansas. I was looking at future schedules yesterday, maybe the day before that. Arkansas has 2 games with Memphis coming up in the next few years, so that's kind of like playing in the same situation.
It is, and then you think about Florida. Last night I was on the Buddy Martin show with Lauren Meadows and David Whitley, and had a guy from UCF, a student of the game, really, really good, talking about that matchup Saturday. The Gators. I don't see the Gators. They're not going to play at Miami. Miami wouldn't let them. And I go play in Tallahassee. That's why the Swamp is, in Jacksonville, and just, let's bounce around the SEC. Like I said, my mind is here. What about, I got to ask you about Red River Shootout. Keep it that way or go to the campuses? I mean, I'll tell you what I think after I hear what you say.
Well, I think everybody should play on campuses. I enjoy the neutral site games and all that, but, it is a money-making business. You want to play your games at home. Even though it's expanded to 12 teams, you're still doing the best you can to get as many SEC teams in as you can. I would much rather teams play, home and home. But in that particular thing, I think it's going to stick with it unless they force them to change it.
Yeah, Jacksonville, Florida, Georgia. There's people that say, "Hey, we should go home and home." They did it in 94 and 95, and I think Florida won those 2 games 52-0 in Athens and in the Swamp. But you like that? Personally, I love it. But just as a fan, long time of college football, do you like it or not?
Yes. I mean, as a longtime veteran fan, absolutely. I love the games in Little Rock. Went to one there with the beautiful wife, Petra. And anytime she says something about the Tampa 2 defense or something like that, I think it's hot. But it's one of those things that I really do enjoy the pageantry, the neutral site, I really do, but I understand the money making and the business side of things. And let's just be honest, if Arkansas had won 12 of the last 13, they'd be saying, yeah, let's play down at Arkansas.
I know.
But they haven't. It's 4,375 days since Arkansas has only beaten Texas A&M once in 4,375 days.
That is frustrating. I mean, I some of the comments.
That's ownage.
Yeah, and I had a lot of comments from Arkansas friends of mine who were at the game, and they're just what do we got to do? But Arkansas's knocking on that door. You're close. Looking around the SEC right now, who's your most improved team or two or three most improved teams? And then I'm going to get to the most disappointing teams, which I think you've got two other fans on the show right now, but I'll digress.
Well, I will go Drake here and go from the bottom to the top. I think Vanderbilt has been better than I expected, and Clark Lee needs some. He's working uphill. I think that but you got to give them a lot of credit. That's not an automatic win for anybody right now. As much as I am going to, then I'm going to the top. Tennessee is great, man. I mean, there's a reason they're a 2-touchdown favorite coming up here. They're great on offense, great on defense, and you can easily say, did I expect them to be good? Yes, but not necessarily this good. So those are my two in one state there that are, maybe one down at the bottom I didn't expect and one at the top I didn't expect. In Texas, again, Texas and Oklahoma. Texas has two quarterbacks. Oklahoma doesn't have any, it looks like.
Yeah, and God, Auburn outgained them by 240 yards or something like that. That doesn't matter. Brent Venables, like Audrey said, you look at the game, Brent Venables looks like he could play. Then you look at Hugh Freeze, and you're like
9 times out of 9, you look at him and
I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. You don't. That's BS. I don't like it. Just, you know what? Give all the credit in the world to the team across the way in the other dressing room. They beat you. And move on. It's the same thing that got Mike Norvell, I think, at Florida State, because I'm a big fan of his, but that team fixated on not making the playoffs last year and laid down and tried to boycott the Orange Bowl. And I think the Orange Bowl said, we'll see you in court if you don't show up. But godly, that's crazy. You know what?
Rhett Lashlee, who should be a candidate. I'm not saying he'd get the job, next time here, but should be a candidate, former Arkansas player.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Hung 42 on Florida State as they went to 1-4 on Saturday. It is. My mind is blown by how big a swing they've taken from being regarded as one of the best teams in the country at the tail end of last year to Arkansas is trying to schedule a game with them.
Yeah. Well, when you go get a quarterback who's on his third school, he came out as a 5-star out of Concordia, California, DJ Uiagalelei, whatever. That's your fault. You invested in him. It's also a guy like Hugh Freeze's fault for not going into the portal and getting someone better. And then you look at Oklahoma. They let Dylan Gabriel go to Oregon, and I think he got a lot of money, a bunch, maybe $1.5 million plus, because they were worried about Jackson Arnold, the highest rated recruit offensive player in school history, a 5-star, who was benched in the first half of the Tennessee game. And so they've lost Dylan Gabriel. The guy they let him go for, is already out, and now they've got Hawkins in there. And if he doesn't see his first read as a receiver, he's going to tuck it and run. And I was listening to Jason Campbell on the Auburn Network color analyst, who was a guest on the show Friday, and he said, stay in your contain lanes, man. He goes, I'm a quarterback. I'm telling you, he's looking for his primary. If he doesn't see him, he's not checking 2 and 3. He's going to tuck it and run. Contain lanes. Talk about that strategy, Dudley. And by the way, I think Travis Williams is really growing up on the job. We've always loved that guy. And that meant a lot to him to go get the W down at Jordan-Hare 9 out of 9 times. It means a lot.
Yeah. He would have to be a candidate too here if this job opens. I mean, he is so loved by the football team and his defense, and it hasn't been there. You can't lay the fault on that side of the ball because they have played well. I mean, obviously they spent so much time on the field the second half that they got gashed there at the end. But you can only do so much. You can only ask so much. Here's the thing that I think we can, we could tie it in with Taylor Green, Jackson Arnold. you're coming to situations and you're learning how to play quarterback. There used to be veteran quarterbacks who waited their turn, who were ready to play, who got game experience. Now everybody, if you're a 5-star, you're being rushed there. You're first of all, you're showing up in January, skipping the prom, and playing basketball, all those other things,
the
and
ACT.
you're starting to be force fed. And defensive coordinators, were great back then. They're even better now. And these kids who play 7-on-7 all the time instead of tackle football, who practice when you used to knock the crap out of each other, and now you can't touch each other. You're playing flag football out there. It's a different game, and it's showing. To me, it's showing up in that 7-on-7. While great for wide receivers, it's not necessarily true measure of what a quarterback should be doing during the summer.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the quarterbacks in the NFL now. They know the playbook. They're not necessarily fundamentally all that sound. Good question from Gil Lawson. Will a 3-loss SEC team make the playoffs?
The easiest thing just to say is probably. There's so many good ones. There's so many good ones. The Ole Miss bandwagon took a shot this weekend, obviously. Yeah. You got to give Kentucky credit. They got bum rushed during one game, and Mark Stoops and them have come back and played well. I would probably, here's what I would say. I wouldn't bet my house that they would, but I'd bet yours.
There you go. Well, and you think about it, the SEC, Texas, they did not cover against Mississippi State the other day. They got the win 35-6. And, Eli, our Arch, he's really good. That's Quinn Ewer's team. And from what we're being told, they're handling it really well. We heard that Tua and Jalen Hurts, it was a fairy tale. I've heard otherwise, but, and it's starting to surface in the NFL with, Jalen Hurts and Sirianni, his coach. We have our moments. Come on. We know more than we tell y'all sometimes. And you know what I'm talking about as a longtime True Grit journalist. I want to ask you, and Vince is going to join us. Ronnie Sanders will be on with us shortly. Like I said, we had a mix-up on the schedule. Ronnie's down in Hoover, Birmingham, but, he's been around in coaching and watching this stuff, looking at another team, and I'm just curious. Well, actually, you mentioned them, is Ole Miss. This, I think, what's on trial Saturday in plain view of the public, and that is Ole Miss taking that culture, 25, portal transfers on that roster. Ron Higgins was on the show yesterday, and he really talked about that. He goes, man, you can't just instantly microwave these guys and gel them into a team. If Ole Miss goes over and gets beaten at South Carolina, remember back in 2008 on that Thursday night game, they were number 4 in the country, and Spurrier and the Gamecocks took them to the woodshed. That, Lane Kiffin's record as a head coach against teams that win 9 or more games in a season is 3-20. Kind of see where I'm going with this? I think he's a hell of a coach.
I would say I still think Ole Miss is a very good football team. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. You can't play UAPB and other teams and just not have any adversity, not have any struggles until you get to the conference play, and then expect things to everybody to just fall over like everybody else has. Kentucky showed up, was ready to play. I got to admit, I was surprised they won, but not shocked, not stunned, because I knew, and I believe it talked about this last week, that you can't become what you are unless you go through some adversity. And they're going to be better in the year because they went through that adversity this weekend, but they weren't ready for what happened. Kentucky came in and said, let's go. Yeah.
Well, you look at a boxing match when you've got a prohibitive favorite in one corner and Horatio Alger in the other corner, and Horatio goes out there and punches the guy right between the eyes, and he's on the ground. Shook Jordan said one time Auburn was a big underdog against Alabama in the Iron Bowl in Birmingham. And he was asked at the press conference, Coach, what kind of chances you think Auburn has against Alabama Saturday? And Coach Jordan, in that South Alabama black belt Selma draw of his, said, well, as I recall, David was about a 40-point underdog to Goliath. Next question. I mean, I like that. See, you appreciate
the right rock, man. You got to bring the right rocks.
That's right.
You got to bring the right rocks.
And look, I'm going to get together with you up in Fayetteville. We'll have you back on again Friday when we're doing the show up there. And Vince, I was going to bring Dan Williams. He's a member of the Touchdown Club I've met. Saw him again Monday night. He played at Tennessee. Get this, guys, 05, 6, 7, 8, 9. Same school for 5 straight years, and played at Tennessee, was the first-round draft pick, played 7 years in the NFL. Now he's getting his MBA at Memphis. But I told him, I said, my kids and I, going back and forth every day past East High School in Memphis, used to watch you and your teammates out there in the summer with your captain's workouts, pulling tractor tires with those back harnesses, up and down the field. And you look at, I don't know if you know Dan Williams from Tennessee, Vince. I think the draft was April of 2010, right when you landed and moved to Knoxville. But big one coming up Saturday, man. Is the Checkerboard Nation going to try to take over Fayetteville this weekend? Vince, holy cow. Honey, I shrunk my guests. Are you there? Vince, you there? Okay. Hopefully he'll be back there, but
hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, but I'll tell you what.
Check our cat grin there at the end.
Yeah, Vince, you in there?
Yeah,
you got us.
My connection's not great. I'm on the normal.
Okay, okay. Well, the bottom line is, this game coming up Saturday is huge for Tennessee because it's the next game. And people get worried about, I think what you just said, though, okay, 5 straight games at home for Auburn. The players get tired. They want to travel. They want to go on the road, believe it or not. They like it. The fans, let's go somewhere different. Now you're walking the Green Mile to Athens, where Auburn has not won since 2005. And lost 7 or 8 straight. 24.5-point underdog. That'll be a tough one. But Dudley, is the SEC the best conference in America right now? And is that really saying a lot? Because looking around the country, there's a lot of parity or what? But the games have been pretty damn exciting this year. And jump in when you can. Yeah.
It's obviously one of the top 2, and those 2 teams are meeting clandestinely, to figure out how they can, raid the college playoffs. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun. I think that Tennessee will cover this weekend. I think they're good enough. I'm sure they'll bring plenty of fans. There have been some gaps, at the Arkansas game. They've announced 75,000, but there's been some seats. So I'm sure there's going to be plenty of orange in the stands.
Vince, I don't know. You'll be back manning central headquarters in Knoxville, but let's talk about Tennessee's mindset heading into the game Saturday at Reynolds Razorback Stadium, Frank Broyles Field. Vince, can you hear us? Okay. I don't know. He's frozen in time up there, but Vince, just jump in when you can. Is it any better now?
Struggling. I'm not sure what's going on, guys. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just tell us what you think about the game before you drop off.
Yeah, that's right. Coach, your thoughts and comments, Coach. I'll hang up. Go on. Go Vols. Are you there? Well, hey,
that was both endearing and a little creepy.
Yeah, well, it sounded slow. I tell you what's happened. That hurricane has knocked out so much of the internet in the southeast of America. It is a major problem. By the way, Coach Ellis Johnson was on the show Monday, and he said, again, if you want to help the people, I don't use the term victims, just the people who were affected adversely by Hurricane Helene, up in North Carolina, South Carolina, throughout the Southeast, in Florida, in Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, and North Carolina as well. He says the Red Cross is a great place to start, redcross.org. I just want to say one of our team members on the show, Frank Duffy, who's Mr. LSU, go Tigers. He lives in Jasper, just north of Atlanta, up in the mountains. He said, hey, boys, heading up to Afton, Tennessee right now in my truck to help the Cajun Navy. How about that? Distribute supplies up into the affected areas in the mountains. And we are, our signal's everywhere because we're a podcast. But they're taking supplies up there. There's no cell or internet service up there in that area. It's gone. In fact, we're having to stop and get one of the Starlink satellite phones Elon Musk is providing at the Greenville, Tennessee airport to bring up. And I was texting with someone yesterday with Starlink and SpaceX. And Elon Musk and that group, what they are doing, people, it's a seismic push, and it's help like I don't know if we've ever seen an effort like this. But Vince, maybe that is the problem up there with the internet, because my son's in Charlotte and he was driving to Birmingham yesterday and he said, Dad, you can't even think about going through I-40 through the Smokies because of all the traffic. It's all the power trucks and it's all the people. But hats off to Frank Duffy. The Cajun Navy is being deployed up into East Tennessee and North Carolina to help people, because no one ever forgot what happened down there in the Houston and the Louisiana coast when that big hurricane just a few years ago dumped 50 inches of rain. 50 inches. And this is 15 inches up there. But Vince, let's talk about Tennessee. Like Dudley said, get in what you can before we lose you, in case we lose you.
Yeah, I think Tennessee fans are pretty confident. And, as you guys have seen, opened as a 2-touchdown favorite. I've seen it as low as 11. I've seen it this morning on FanDuel at 13.5 for Tennessee. So that's probably the right range. I think Tennessee fans especially are looking at Arkansas's last couple of games and saying, see, they're not that good. We're going to roll them. And my point is, if both teams are playing well, I think Tennessee is the better team and they should win. However, I think we should have seen and learned our lesson that, one, you can't go by just one game result and have that mean, all right, that's who that team is. How many times do we have to learn that lesson on this football season? Just because you have one team struggle against one team or lose to one team doesn't mean that's the way they're going to play every week. Each week, day-to-day, game plans, motivation, time of kickoff. I mean, all those things. We didn't see Mark Stoops run the quarterback like 20 some odd times like he did against Ole Miss. So every game is in kind of its own bubble. And so there'll be those dynamics. So I think Tennessee fans are very confident because of the last two games. The offense hasn't been clicking like it was for them in some of their non-conference blowouts. And look, but Arkansas, if Tennessee is not ready outside of the bye and they're not playing well, or they don't handle the crowd noise, those kind of things, if we see things we haven't seen from them to this point, Arkansas has the ability to beat you and make you pay for it. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the discussion of this week. In terms of the game itself, I think the line of scrimmage is a big part of this game. And Dudley, you have pointed out that the D-line for Arkansas has played pretty well. It's a different look, though, with the tempo that Tennessee is going to present. Really love Landon Jackson on that D-line. And as you know, they have other guys that have played well. But Tennessee has been very good at running the football. The key is, and we won't know it until probably game time, we'll see on the availability report tonight, is Tennessee's tackles. If Tennessee doesn't have both or one of their starting tackles, then that's going to even things out a little bit.
They're not going to score 60.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, maybe just 42, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I want to introduce y'all. This Ronnie Sanders, first time on the show. Ronnie's part of Auburn undercover team. Been around a while, knows his sports. He was thinking he was coming on at 8:30, and we got a little confused on the time. So we're going to have fun today. But he's got 3 kids, got to get to school. Ronnie, I remember that because we had 3 kids in 4 years, and some of those early morning discussions.
Dude.
My 6-year-old kid Max used to love to watch this bridge being built because he learned from my dad, his grandfather, about rebar and reinforced concrete. And every time we'd go over the bridge, he'd go, "Dad, rebar, tensile strength, concrete." I go, "Yeah." So we're gonna have fun, but I would give anything to have my kids young enough again to be taken to school. So God bless you. We always make it work. He was worried about dogs barking. I got 20 guys on top of the house right now. Showed up at 6:27 a.m. Central, putting a new roof on this house, on a 7,000 square foot house over here at the farm in Parkin, Arkansas. And I'm going to tell you something. God bless these people because they're the hardest workers I've ever seen. Ronnie, Vince Ferrara, the sports animal in Knoxville, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net. Kind of, let's get your take on what's going on. We're gonna have some fun here because we cover all 16 SEC schools. Give people your background and I gotta ask you, if Mildred wants to join the show, she's got a special hotline. I mean, you gotta tell everybody. But I've had more people go, "Brown, you got to bring Mildred to the farm and take Mildred duck hunting with us if Mildred's available." I'm guessing Mildred's 114 now, but kind of tell people your background and what you do because these guys have been doing this a while, and we get together every day on this show and just let her rip.
Well, I went to school at Auburn and graduated, and I bounced around, went to worked for senator, worked for a congressman, and ended up at LSU with Nick Saban, and was there with there were 3 of us or 4 of us, I guess. There was Jimbo, Pete Jenkins, and Rick Trickett, and it was actually Trickett who he talked Coach Saban into creating a job and basically for me, and then hiring me. So I give him a lot of credit for what I've been able to accomplish. He's rough around the edges, but I love him.
hey, Ronnie, I'm guessing congressmen, senators, Saban was still the most powerful of those 3, right?
Oh, no question. And I ended up at Florida and was there for 3 years. Went to Southern Miss for 4 years. Met my wife at Florida. She was a sports nutritionist when I was there. She's a Gator. She graduated from there. And then after 4 years at Southern Miss, started Auburn Undercover about 2 years before 24/7 Sports existed, and moved over to Shannon Terry hired me, and I recruited several of the sites that ended up as part of 24/7, and have been here been doing Auburn Undercover for the last 16 years. So, and I think 24/7's been around about 14 years. So,
yeah, and along that line, Dudley, you've been writing for 37 years, probably. Is that about right? And Vince, you've been doing it about.
Well, my first job was in Newport when I was going to be a junior going into a senior. Because our sports editor at the local newspaper went away, and I got that job. So it's been since I was 17, but legitimately getting paid really well or okay has been 37 years.
Yeah, well, it's a great career. And Vince, you've been doing it a while. I'm going to kind of bounce around with everybody. I've got questions to ask because we've talked about Tennessee and Arkansas, and Ronnie covers Auburn. But in college football right now, I'm going to start with Vince. What is the biggest story trending right now in the SEC or college football that keeps you awake at night?
Awake at night? I'm usually so tired, nothing's keeping me awake. Old man pains, that's about it. That's keeping me awake. I'm not sweating college football.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. So, but no, to your point, I just think it's the anticipation of the college football playoff and how this will play out, and what, how many SEC teams we'll see in there, potential home playoff games at the University of Tennessee, which is just wild. And then you think, I talked about this morning on our show, the potential matchups with the brands that are out there. You can have Ohio State or Michigan matching up with Tennessee. So just to think about those scenarios, to hear Tennessee on some people's number one for to win the SEC and to be in the college, like Tennessee hasn't sniffed that for so long. For them to be in that conversation with the expanded playoff, I think that's, to me, the cool biggest story that's out there. There's obviously the NIL stuff with UNLV and their quarterback and all that. Everybody hitting the portal after 4 games with the red shirt and all that kind of stuff. But I don't sweat that because the sport is still successful. I probably think about the playoff more than anything.
Yeah.
And as far as me, nothing keeps me up at night either. I mean, I get up during the night because I'm old, but that's just how it works. But what I would say is that, it used to be when I first started this job that you could go up and you could talk to an athlete and, get all kind of good quotes or you would go through the sports information director and be able to talk to him. Now I have to go through and the SID and then the agent and then the lawyer. Screw that, man. Screw that. And that's the one thing I would say that I love covering sports, but hey, no, I shouldn't have to go through 4 people to talk to one.
Yeah. Ronnie, you've seen it working with Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher, Rick Trickett, Pete Jenkins. I can't imagine working around Rick Trickett. He never raises his voice, never cusses. I know people that played offensive line for him. They said, "Man, he made me one hell of a tough." Look, wasn't he a Marine Corps drill instructor? 2 tours at Parris Island.
He was in the Marines, but I'll tell you a story. Philip Marshall, who I'm sure you know.
Yes.
He said when Trickett was at Auburn, Philip probably tell a story better than I could, but Philip tells him, he said, Trick, he said, I would never let my son play for you. And Trickett said, well, that's good because the son of a bitch is not tough enough to play for me anyway.
Hey, Rob, there's an intruder. I mean, there's an intruder in your house, Vince.
Yeah.
No, that's the boss. So.
It's a ghost in the background. Hey, this house is 94 years old, man. They're taking the roof off that was put on in 1930. There's no telling what's coming off this house, but my God, it's incredible. I gotta say this, Ronnie. I want to ask you real quick, what's going on at Auburn? I mean, I'm of the old school. The coach is always, that's on us. We got to do it better. But these kids are getting paid now, and it's a diametrically opposing argument that you can make. Well, I'm just of that deal. If something goes wrong with a client, it's always my fault. They don't know everyone in the back office, whatever. That's just the way I am. What's your read on what's happening with Hugh Freeze at Auburn? And I'm going to bounce around with everybody because, and I appreciate everybody your input because y'all put in the mileage and you've got the credibility. But what's your take on what's happening with Hugh Freeze in year 2 and compare it to year 2 under Potato Head?
Well, I think that, first of all, I don't think anybody realizes just how bad a shape the program was in when Freeze was hired. It was, if you look at the roster, we counted it up the other day. I think there were 47 redshirt freshmen, true freshmen on the roster. So that tells you something. You got a transfer quarterback, and Freeze didn't want to go spend a bunch of money on a quarterback, and he rode with Peyton Thorne, and you see last week. Thorne is certainly serviceable when he's not giving the ball away. But I think there's a lot of things. Playing freshmen is tough, and has Freeze made some play calls and game management situations that I don't agree with? Absolutely. But a lot of it is you're playing with a lot of freshmen. You're playing with guys who, you're also building a culture. And before he got there, and really at the end of the Malzahn era, it was a mess. And when Potato Head came in, it was a real mess. And he's trying to rebuild the culture and trying to do things the right way, I think. But that being said, I mean, Auburn people want results, but I mean, Freeze was pretty clear up front. Hey, look, don't judge us by the first 2 years. Judge us on year 3 and 4. And if you look at recruiting, I think right now Auburn fans are like, well, he can certainly recruit. Can he coach? And so far, if you look at some of the losses last year, you've got the Iron Bowl, which was 4th and 31 or whatever it was, and then you've got getting blown out by Maryland, getting blown out by New Mexico State. Auburn had a chance to win 9 games last year. Should they have? Probably not, but had a chance to. Yeah. And then, this year you've lost 3 games that you shouldn't have lost. That being said, it's still early in the rebuild. So I tend to give him a pass. I know some people don't, but I do. Now, next year, that's a different animal. But
yeah. And the one stat that I keep referencing is every Auburn coach, starting with Pat Dye, has won 8 games or more in year 2, with the exception of Brian Harsin, who I had to put in parentheses because he didn't finish his second year. He was euthanized after the Arkansas beatdown in 2022. So they took him to the pet shelter, and it was over.
I think the other thing that people fail to realize is if you look back, so Suge Jordan won a national championship. Doug Barfield did not. Recruit a bunch of good players at the end. Dye won 4 conference championships. The 88 team was probably his best, but was certainly screwed out of the national championship in 83. Terry Bowden comes in 93, wins his first 20 games, goes undefeated 93, plays for a conference championship 97, turnaround. Tuberville goes undefeated 2004, gets screwed out of a national championship. Chiswick comes in, wins the national championship in 2010, and then Gus comes in and in 2013 wins the conference, plays for a national championship. So there's a pattern there. You can win at Auburn. Are you going to win 6 national championships in 16, 17 years? Probably not. Can you win a national championship? Yeah. Can you win 2? Probably so. But it's going to take everybody being on the same page. And I'll say this, I haven't seen Auburn people, the Auburn administration be on the same page the way that it is now at any time since Pat Dye. Yeah. And I think that is, I think that's good. I also think Auburn is starting to function more like a normal university.
Wait a minute now. Don't say that. Come on.
It's a different day, and I think that I sorry, there's a cat jumping up in my lap. But I think that Auburn is in good shape. I do think that Freeze is starting to get some grumbling, but I think patience is a virtue, and I think Auburn fans are going to have it. But look, we preached on Auburn undercover for a couple of years or for years. Hey, look, this thing's getting out of hand. Sorry about the cat there.
hey, Ronnie, I got to ask you my next question. Well, I used to do radio in Memphis at Sports 56 WHBQ with my friend, the late Jeff Weinberger. I'd get over to the studio early a lot, and the producer was a guy named George Klein, and he was Elvis Presley's best friend, went to Humes High School with him. And I think I love music. Growing up in Memphis, I've been out, having cocktails at lunch and seeing, no kidding, you two walk out into the bar, and you're like, that's you too. And they're in town recording. And, Mick Jagger down on South Main at Ernestine and Hazel's. And it's just, who are those records in the back? Is that all of Skinner's top albums, or what is that? Pink Floyd?
Let's see. You got, actually what I did with that is I took some of
the cat. I love it. This is awesome.
My wife was supposed to take her and the dog.
Live TV, baby. Live
TV. That's right. But who all you got back there?
So I actually took my wife, Becky. Her dad passed away about 7 or 8 years ago, but he had some old records. Yeah. And so I took some of those. There's one up there somewhere of Chubby Checker, which is my granddad. It was one of my granddad's albums. And so I took some of his albums, took some of my wife's albums, her dad's vinyl. And then my mom had some, took some of hers. My dad had a couple took some of his, and the rest of them are mine. There's a lot of Bon Jovi up there, if you notice. So,
Yeah.
and Matchbox 20. A lot of
I
Bon
love-
Jovi and Matchbox 20. So.
Yeah. Well, we were supposed to have a musician. I'm looking forward to him. Was supposed to be on last Friday. He was a big football fan, Chuck Lavelle from Birmingham. And I was texting with him Friday morning. He lives just south of Macon. He'd already had 8 inches of rain, no power, and he's got 4,000 acres he maintains. He goes, other than that, Rob, everything's okay. I said, he goes, can we reschedule? I said, of course. I'm not going to. Chuck Lavelle is a cool. I was fishing with his cousin up in Hardy on the Spring River in late August, and I just think about music, food, and football in the South. Vince, along that line, I want to ask you, you think about the game right now. Was it Jim Nagy? And I think we all know who Jim Nagy is, executive director of the Senior Bowl down in Mobile. And I was introduced to him by a mutual friend, Will Johnson from Mobile, proud native graduate of McGill-Tulane. And I think the number of players, Vince, and you mentioned James Pierce, the edge rusher at Tennessee, before anybody else is really talking about him. And I think Jim Nagy said something about the draft coming up. The players are they being developed now because there's so much movement from school to school? What's your thought on that? I mean, because I'm gonna try to get him on the show here very soon because he really knows football, and I don't know if y'all know Jim Nagy, but he really knows it.
Yeah, I do know him, and I think he's terrific. Not only what he does for that Reese's Senior Bowl, but in interviews and explaining talent, things like that. So a lot of respect for him. Look, Tennessee has developed transfers. They've developed their own players from their own signing classes as well. So it's been a mixture of both. I think you can develop in the portal. We've seen obviously marquee quarterbacks do that, but there's guys that can take their games to the next level at a lot of different positions as transfers. So if a guy's transferring every year and then just can't find a home and he doesn't have the best spots, or he's making decisions that are outside of what's best to develop him for his football future. If you're making NIL decisions in the portal, then being in the portal and transferring, you're not going to get the best version of that player for the next level if you're making it for the wrong reasons. If you're making smart decisions and going to places where you can get developed, then the portal can still work out for you. So I don't think that's an absolute from that standpoint. Good programs are going to develop those players, and look, they should, because they're more mature.
Yeah.
Right. So they should know, and then know the urgency as well of the situation. So you better be locked in and be willing to be coached up and coached hard. I think it just depends on the situation and the player.
Dudley?
Two things. Number one, I think that with the back to Auburn a little bit, I think he's a very good coach. He's been a great coach, in a lot of places. But I've learned in 61 years that you don't have to say everything that comes to your mind. And even if you were, stinging from that defeat to Arkansas, 9 out of 9 is going to haunt you for the rest of your life. That's one of those things. It's just going to be there. You can't throw the kids under the bus and then back up, which is what I think he did. I'm sure they'll be fine down the line. Second of all, Vince, next time the boss goes back there, tell him I want a breakfast bowl and a Bud Light.
I haven't even seen. You guys might have had the better view of what he's getting back there. So
it looks like one of those ghost shows on Discovery Channel, like Mildred walking in the background. Pow, hey, pow. Mildred,
I'm shocked. It's been at least 25 years since I've done that voice on, and people still talk about it. I'm flattered, actually. About 2 years ago, Lockamy called me and he said, "Hey, Paul outed you on the radio." I said, "Do what?" And he said, "Yeah, Paul just outed you." He said, "He just said your name and associated you with Mildred." I'm like, "Well," so since then it's been nonstop on the Auburn Undercover Message. I shouldn't say nonstop, but somebody mentions it fairly often.
Well, I found a love letter that it's authenticated from an estate sale that my sister was conducting between you and Coach Bryant. Mildred, can you tell us about that? I mean, I literally, you can turn those things on. They're all archived on the Paul Feinbaum side. I don't know, Dudley, you and Vince, Mildred, that character on the Feinbaum
I know.
show, and she'd be like, "Oh, I'm 87-year-old." It used to make me holler. Can we get just a little bit of Mildred? It's like having Luciano Pavarotti on here right now. Can you loosen up the pipes and give us a little Mildred?
I'll have to do a little bit of practice before I can do that. It's only been 25 years, man.
My God. I mean,
He's not a trained SEAL. He's not a trained SEAL, though.
yeah, we would play those at work. We'd be up there like, during lunch eating or something like that at Regions Morgan Keegan. And I mean, in people crying. It was that's right up there with Larry Bud Melman and Biff on Letterman and Brother Theodore that used to come on there. Brother Theodore, wow. He was a physicist or something. All right, got to ask you, and I want to throw this one too. Talk about the SEC, that Georgia-Alabama game. And, Nick Saban retires. And, Ronnie, you worked for him. Were you at LSU when you lost to UAB in his first year?
I was, and I remember that game. At that point in time, you had no replay, but the officials were so confused. I remember them standing there looking at the replay board, trying to figure out where to spot the ball on one particular sequence. But yeah, I was there, and it was not pretty, and it was pretty rough. But look, I believed in what he was doing, and
yeah, it worked
he
out.
Obviously. Yeah, I mean, Pat
Wow.
Smith called me, who worked for Paul Feinbaum for a while or a long time, and he called me when Saban was hired at Alabama, and he said, "Well, what do you think?" I said, "Well, things about to change," and they certainly did. If you look at the mess that he inherited,
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. I'm not comparing Hugh Freeze to Nick Saban, but he inherited a mess, and it wasn't just. I talked to somebody in the building after they got the job, after Freeze was hired, and he said, "Hey, I don't think people realize," he said, "not one thing in this building worked right." He said, "You would think that this guy would have something that was functional, whether, anything." He said, "Not one thing worked right in this building." He said, "We're starting from the ground up," and this before they ever played a game.
Yeah.
And it was not a good situation. I think people need to take a step back and realize that, hey, there are also some pretty good teams in the Southeastern Conference. This is not, if people talk about the Big Ten, the Big Ten's got some really good teams. The bottom of the conference isn't great. If you look at the SEC, I mean, you go in any day, any weekend, you can get beat if you're not ready to play.
Yeah. I want to ask you one more question before I go back to Vince, because you spent some time at Florida. Our executive producer, Brendan Martin, he and his dad, they have GatorBaitMedia.com, do the Buddy Martin show. They know Florida really well. And we got a lot of Gators that watch this show, and we love them. I mean, they've helped put us on the map, and I can't thank them enough. And it's all these fan bases. Talk about your experience at Florida, Billy Napier. I referenced last night, looks like Billy and everybody in his family all go to the same barber when they're back home. But talk about Billy Napier.
I don't know Billy real well. I've been around him a couple times, and from everything I know about him, and certainly that was my experience when I was with him, is he's a great guy. I think he's a good coach. I also think that, if you look back at Florida's history, they've had, and I'm going to sound like I worked for Ron Zook, so I'm going to sound like I'm defending him. But, if you look, and he'll tell you, Florida's had success under two coaches, really, really good success. They've won, Spurrier and you had some other guys who jumped up and have a good year here, a good year there, but Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer. And, Zook will tell you, he's like, hey, I stalked the roster both times. and he did. And,
That's right.
I'm really not sure. I look at Florida's recruiting rankings, not that that's the be all and end all, but I'm not sure how you can be at Florida and not have a top 5 class in the conference at an absolute minimum.
Yeah.
And as Ron used to reference, there was a lot of noise in the system when we were at Florida, and we still had great recruiting classes, as Urban Meyer, I'm sure, can attest. So I'm not sure what's going on down there. I haven't kind of reconnected with Jeremy Foley a little bit, and I haven't asked him about it. I'm not sure. I was talking to Zook not too long ago, and he said, I think there were, in counting interim coaches, I think there have been maybe 10 or 11, something like that, since they let us go. And so don't quote me on those numbers, but I believe that's right. And so if you look at that, there's been a ton of instability. I'm not sure that I think Scott Strickland's a really good guy. Worked with him briefly when he was at Auburn and I was a student. I'm not sure what the problem is down there. They've got better facilities, certainly than you did when we were there. I mean, I walked in and I had been at Auburn, I'd been at LSU, and I walked in and I'm looking around. I'm like, this is Florida, and I said something to Zook, and he's like, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. And but we were still able to recruit at a high level. And you look at where you are. I mean, it's the flagship university in the state. I'm just not sure how you can have. I mean, Florida and Auburn both are quickly headed toward 4 consecutive losing seasons. That's pretty phenomenal. And more so even at Florida. I mean, look, it's been a long time since Auburn's had. I couldn't tell you the last time Auburn had 4 straight losing seasons.
After World War II.
There you go.
And the coach is always very important, but the AD sometimes is the most important decision maker there. And, I can say that from being here at Arkansas. They've whiffed some, Florida's whiffed some, Auburn's whiffed some. You've got to hit. And that's why I don't think there'll be, if there is a regime change up here, I don't think there'll be Bobby Petrino will go up or what. I think they'll go out and try to hit a home run, even though all they've been doing lately is hitting singles.
Yeah. Well, and I think that a lot of people talk about fit. And I'm I've always been a big believer in fit, but it is much more important at some places than it is at others. And some people can come in and you can look, and it was Nick Saban's from West Virginia, and he's coached in the Big Ten and this and that and the other. Well, he doesn't fit at Alabama. Well, he did. He's exactly what they needed. Brian Harsin, I can't think of a situation where Brian Harsin would fit at Auburn. And the fact that he ended up there is a testament to the dysfunction at Auburn the previous 15 years plus. To answer your question, I'm not sure what's going on in Florida. I wish I knew. It's a great job. And I don't think Billy's going to make it. Where do they go? Everybody talks about Lane Kiffin, but Lane Kiffin got way, way, way down the road with Auburn, and ended up. I think they both got cold feet after Lane started pulling his antics. I think Auburn kind of pulled back and said, "Hey, look, we really want to deal with this." And at the end of the day, they both said, "Hey, look, let's just go our separate ways." And Freeze is a better fit at Auburn, probably, than Kiffin. Just looking at Auburn's history, and Kiffin really doesn't fit. He might fit at Florida, but he doesn't really fit at Auburn.
It looks to me from the outside that Auburn says, "Hey, that dude coached at Arkansas State."
So did Gus. Vince, let me ask you about Danny White at Tennessee. He's one of those rock star ADs, and he came from University of Central Florida. Then he brings Josh Heupel. And can we have a top 5 mispronunciations by East Tennesseans of Josh Heupel's name when he first got there? Josh Heupel? Yes, sir? No, but the guy's a hell of a coach. He's from Aberdeen, South Dakota. He's he's brilliant. Right now, Audrey's cousin Mark is on a committee with Dondi Plowman up there that gets together every month. And you've got a chancellor at Tennessee that if she could, she'd wear a helmet on Saturdays. She loves football. How important is that versus having a bunch of elitist pinheads in the president's office that are dismissive about football and the rubes and boobs that follow your team? Because Tennessee, like Auburn right now, is united. It's like Sir Robert the Bruce. Come unite all the clans of Scotland, or the English will just come and burn us out. What do you think?
I can't believe you're underestimating the elitist pinheads, Rob.
Yeah.
They have a proven track record, right?
A failure. You got it. Football's kind of important, but Tennessee right now has got a lot of positive karma.
Well, things are going so well for Danny White, and he has collected so much goodwill that there really wasn't the backlash to them raising the ticket prices other than the initial day of. So it's not like there's been this revolt or I'm keeping my money or this is, this and that. He gets the benefit of the doubt because he's earned it with the way the football program has resurrected. Recruiting is good. That has to be in line with the wins.
Yeah.
Then all the other programs making the postseason and having success, coaching hires panning out, basketball slowly raising its bar.
Yeah.
Everything is going in the contributions to the program in terms of fundraising, all that, the renovations to Neyland Stadium and Lindsey Nelson. So everything's going well. So he's earned the benefit of the doubt. So he is very popular, and as long as they keep winning, especially in football, and there's not any other big controversies, then I think it will continue to where fans are just going to be like, let's go, Danny, whatever you think.
Yeah, that guy's got the magic touch right now. Everything's going so well. He could go to Broadway and throw a chair off the top of the building, and it wouldn't be a problem.
Vince, let me ask you, what about the talent fee that's being added to the ticket price?
Yeah, Ronnie, that's what I was referring to. There really wasn't the backlash to it. It was, there's some people that spoke out about it, but it didn't last. It was just a news cycle story where people were like, "Oh man, fans have to pay for everything," and then the younger fans are like, "Let's go." Well, we want the best recruits. We want NIL to work. We want all those guys to stay. So it was really a generational thing. The older generations had a bigger problem than the younger did, and then it kind of went away. And that's really it's kind of like college football. How many things did we fret about with college football and still do? Yet here they are, as strong as ever, as successful as ever, and people are still watching and going to games. So it's not perfect in the money that fans have to pay, but Ronnie, fans are just kind of, because things have gone so well, that wasn't as big of a deal in shaking their fan base up like the initial story around the country of, wow, somebody's doing this. There's more to come around the country also, by the way.
The older fans are saying, "Get out of my yard." The younger fans are saying, "Let's make it rain."
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, Ronnie, when we were down at the Auburn, Oklahoma game last weekend, Audrey and I stayed out at Lake Martin, and then we went in Saturday morning. The thing I disliked the most, well, the parking lot right by the Sigma Nu house where we stay, we always park, was a mud pit after the hurricane had come through Thursday. So we had to park way over. I don't even know where we were. I wish the colleges would stop all this getting you to park 5 miles away. 9/11, they keep using that as an excuse. You got to embrace your fans. But Ronnie, and I'm looking forward to seeing this. I'm going to be meeting up with Dudley. I'm taking Dudley out for lunch or dinner on me because he works his ass off, and so does Vince. And we want you to come back on this show, and I appreciate you. Sorry about the scheduling mix-up this morning, but let me tell you something. I love kids. I love my kids more than anything in the world. I tell them every night how much I love them, all the muches in the whole wide world. And they're like, "Dad, I'm 20." I'm like, "Well, I do." I'd give anything to be back in your shoes. So don't you ever worry if you're coming on the show. And anybody, you got kids or whatever, and dogs and cats, I love them. So don't worry. But you got to come back with us, man. This is fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to. And we had 3 in 38 months. And
that's what we 3 in 51. Yeah, you did it faster than us.
Yeah, it was quick. And then we've got a house full of we got a giant schnauzer, a miniature schnauzer. We rescued a golden doodle. We rescued that cat that was up here in my computer a while ago.
I love it.
We've got a chinchilla, 3 hamsters, a hedgehog, and a giant tortoise that lives in the backyard.
So I love it.
I'm looking at a pygmy seal coming up, I think.
I'll tell you what, this tortoise weighs about 75 pounds that lives in the backyard.
Yeah, Audrey, my wife, was in the Galapagos Islands about 6 years ago and saw those 150-year-old turtles, 150 years old. Now, what did I say? Mildred would be 114? Maybe she's a turtle. Maybe she's a Galapagos turtle.
Maybe.
But
And we
guys, if I
discussed
look
bringing her back.
That's right.
I talked to
hey, if I look a little bit like my eyes, I'm watching the roof come off. I'm in the dining room in Lee Hall looking out, and there's 94 years worth of roof coming off right now. So it's amazing. But look, we're going to go ahead and wrap up right now. Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net. Catching Vince Ferrara, the sports animal up in Knoxville, and Ronnie Sanders, Auburn Undercover. We got to do this again. Love the discussion. And I think the bottom line is, as crazy as it is at a lot of schools, the interest of fans is off the charts. I'm bouncing off the walls to go to Fayetteville just to be on the college campus and be around all these people that love the game. And I'm going to say this real quick. The Cajun Navy, they're going in on horseback and mule up in the mountains in East Tennessee and North Carolina to get supplies to people, all these volunteers. I'm going to tell you what, folks. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world, okay? Don't ever doubt that, because look at these people out here. They're LSU fans, Tennessee fans, fans of every school. Maybe America ought to take the example of what we do on this show and in college sports every day. I think we'd be a lot happier. But look, all of y'all, thanks a million. Executive producer Brendan Martin. Have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow, ready to do it again. Thanks for watching.